Hi class, welcome to some videos. We're going to go through the social media marketing book, or is where this lecture content is going to come from. Before you watch these videos, I strongly encourage you to read the material. I am not going to go through the material at the same level as if you read it. I'm only going to go through and hit some highlights and the areas that are most pertinent to your assignment. With that being said, let's go. What are social media? It's interesting that oftentimes people want to say what is social media, but we want to take it from the perspective of what are social media. The reason being is because there's a lot of different social media, so it really is a plural type of thing. Just looking at the definition, social media are the online means of communication, conveyance, collaboration, and cultivation among interconnected and interdependent networks of people. So let me ask you this. What are the different forms of social media that you engage with on a daily basis? As you read, we are living in the digital age. You are a digital native, many of you. And so really, what are the types of interaction that you're having? How do you collaborate with people through social media? And then also, what are some of the communities that you belong to? It's interesting. I started a lot of new hobbies in my life, and oftentimes one way that I will kind of get involved in a community is through social media. I'll look at different things that I'll have different questions about a hobby that I'm doing, and I'll get on and I'll join different blogs that will have other conversations taking place. I'll join different websites that will have communities where people are able to have lots of question and answers. I don't assume that I am unique to this situation. I imagine that it is fairly common among many people. So really, social media, they are a way that we are using to communicate with people in these days. We're doing it by technology and capabilities and mobility. It's really interesting. I've traveled with students to a lot of different places in the world. While I'm over there, I'm able to communicate with them fairly easy through social media, even though we may be on a study abroad in Europe. So social media is something that is here, and something that will help you when you are thinking about social media. Instead of thinking about it as a singular, think about it as a plural. What are social media? How do I interact with them? What social media do I use for different things? Here are some couple different social medias that we have out there. These are the more popular ones. There's a lot of them, and you can see this is just kind of a fun infographic that tells us about the different aspects that is going on in each one. For example, if you just look at the bottom row, it tells us roughly how many users that are involved in each one of the social media. It is not surprising. Facebook, 1.8 billion active users. That is a lot of people that are using Facebook on a regular basis. Look at Pinterest. Pinterest has 68% female users, 32% male users. For me, in my life, I know about the only time that I look at Pinterest is when I'm looking over my wife's shoulder and she is looking at something on Pinterest. She gets a lot of different ideas about crafts and things like that she may be interested in doing. If we take a look at Snapchat, this is amazing to me, 9,000 images per second. So users are constantly uploading things to Snapchat. It is a very, very interactive brand. And then if we look over at Instagram, this is something that I have noticed within the last couple of years, is that many brands are starting to participate through the use of hashtags on Instagram. The ads on Instagram are getting to be a lot bigger. But for me, as a producer instead of a consumer of social media, and I hope that you'll become a producer instead of just a consumer of social media, it means that, well, if many businesses are starting to participate through the use of hashtags, it's probably a good time for you to start learning about how hashtags works and move forward with this understanding that it is a tool that you can use inside of how you communicate through your different social media. Social media, to help us understand really what's going on, is broken up into 4 different zones, if you will. The first zone is social community. This is really a zone where a lot of networking takes place. It's where relationships are oftentimes built, is through social community. People get on and they'll interact with each other using this. They'll share, they'll socialize, and they'll converse. The next one is social publishing. Social publishing is the zone where knowledge is communicated from one person to either another person or to a group of people. Here we see editorial, commercial, user-generated information can be there. The next is social entertainment. Social entertainment are where we get games, music, and arts. I have Spotify on my computer, and Spotify would fall underneath social entertainment. Is what I use to get a lot of my music. The next is social commerce. Social commerce is where the retailing takes place, is where the buying and the selling takes place. Kind of just an interesting side note. I was behind on my Christmas shopping this year, and I hopped on Amazon and was able to get so much of my Christmas shopping done through social commerce. Within that, I was able to see what other people thought about the idea, see other options that were there, and in a matter of a couple hours, I was able to get the bulk of my Christmas shopping done because social media has provided a format through social commerce. You can use Amazon almost as a form of social media. Within each one of the zones of social media, we have vehicles. Vehicles are referred to as the type of media, or the place that we go for media that helps us to engage inside of the zones. For example, if we look here on this slide, we can see Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Plus are forms of the social community. I would say one that they probably left off here could be Instagram. It's a community where people interact, they build relationships. It's a place to be able to network and to get to know other people. We have social publishing. Social publishing would be someone who has a blog and is blogging. They're going out and they're publishing different things out there to try to build knowledge among the other people. Then we have social entertainment, different games that are out there. I think it's interesting because this book is really, really brand new, and they're already talking about Second Life, the Second Life game. That seems like a game that was played several years ago, and shows really how quickly social entertainment changes and new games come out. Then the last one we have is social commerce, and social commerce is how through a social setting we can help to promote commerce. I like TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is one that I get on quite a bit. Even here, I'm looking for a new place to go to eat dinner with my family or with my wife. I'm looking for something to do. I'll get on TripAdvisor, and it helps to let me know what's out there, and it helps to facilitate what I go and what I purchase online. It's not uncommon for me to use TripAdvisor to book a hotel room or to move forward that way. So the reason why it's important for us to look at these is because within inside of each one of these zones, we need to think about what is our organization doing with the social media? What do we want our organization to do? And then how do we move forward to be able to effectively help our organization? Maybe they have a really strong presence in social community. Then it could be time to move beyond the strong presence in social community and move into social publishing and start publishing knowledge, start getting a foundation, establish your credibility through social publishing for your consumer to see. Once you have that credibility, maybe it's time to move into social commerce and start engaging in transactions with them online and giving them a way to be able to interact and to purchase things with you. If we break up and if we look at this from the perspective of where is our organization, or what are we trying to accomplish with our organization, then it really helps us to kind of focus in one of these quadrants and to build social media or produce social media that will evolve and fit into a particular quadrant. Instead of just trying to say, oh, I'm going to produce social media, we produce the social media, and we aren't quite sure what we've produced at the end, because it could be a combination of all of these different things. It just ends up kind of being mushy social media instead of focusing on a particular objective that we're trying to achieve. Within each one of the zones of social media, there are different types of media that exist, and this is helpful for us to understand as we're trying to expand an organization's social media reach. You can see right here, here's the different zones that we have. Next, we have paid media, earned media, and owned media. These are slightly different. I'm going to work through the social community one and then let you just kind of see the differences between paid, earned, and owned media in the rest of them. Within social communities, we have the paid media. These can be ads that pull up when you're looking through your Instagram account or when you're on Facebook. You can see that there are ads that are there that different companies have paid for you to see. The next is paid influencers. I know on my wife's Instagram account, she'll have different companies that will approach her, or maybe even she'll approach the company and she'll say, hey, here's my social media my social media account. I like your brand. I'd be interested in being an influencer. So I will maybe take pictures of myself or pictures of other people using your product, or I'll come to a particular event that you're hosting, and I'll talk about it. But in order for me to do that, you need to pay me to be able to do that. So it will be a paid influencer. I know she did this with a clothing company called Ibex recently, where they sent her clothing. She wore it in the outdoors, doing different things. She would post it just on her Instagram account, and then in the little caption she'd say, oh, wearing my new Ibex jacket, or it may look cold, but I'm warm in my new Ibex jacket. So that would be a paid influencer. It was inside of the zone of social communities, but people were interested reading through, and she would just almost like name drop the companies that were promoting her and trying to influence her followers to possibly purchase those type of things. The next one is earned media. Earned media is what the followers give you. They all of a sudden are starting to participate in what you are offering to them. So this could be conversations that take places in community, likes, followers, fans, impressions that, or number of times that people actually come and visit. Certain thing about earned media. I follow a couple different places that looking into rock climbing. One of them is Mountain Projects. Mountain Projects has a big. It's not like a live chat room, but where people post things and you can follow different threads and read about different topics that you may be interested in. This would be considered earned media. It's people go there and they've had to work to get people to come and to spend the time there. So that would be an example of conversations inside the community. The next one is owned media. This is brand-owned social networks. This is where a brand would own, usually through their website, they would own something and attract people to come and then find a way to promote engagement for people there. An example of this is if you go to Black Diamond website. Black Diamond is they make outdoor gear, they manufacture climbing gear. They own the sites there. People come and they start to participate in it, but it is all very geared towards selling the Black Diamond brands. They have videos on how to do things and things like that. So that would be an example of maybe where they're starting to dive down here into the social publishing because they are making videos on things. So we have the different zones. Within inside of each zone, there's paid media, there's earned media, and there's owned media. It's important for you to think from the perspective of your organization, how are you participating in the zones? Are you using paid media that's out there? If you're not using paid media, does it make sense for your organization to start to use paid media within inside of a particular zone? Do you have earned media that's out there? A way you can follow your earned media, and one way you can follow your earned media to see if it's being successful is through looking at your amount of likes or followers or your fans or whatever different mechanisms that the different vehicles have built in. And this will see, are your earned media increasing or are they decreasing? I know a lot of people judge the success of an Instagram account on how many followers do you have, or the success of a particular post within inside of Instagram, and how many likes did that post get. And then you have owned media. Maybe some of your organizations have owned media. They have a website that's just sitting there stagnant, not doing anything, not providing a way for a community to be built on that website. That could be something that you then could pursue and possibly move forward with. What I would like to do is let's talk about marketing objectives and social media. What is social media trying to do with regards to marketing? Within inside of most organizations, social media falls squarely within inside of marketing, as you read in the reading. Some marketing departments have social media housed in it. Some organizations have social media, and then they have a marketing office, and there's some communication between them. This all varies depending on the type of organization. But really, what is the objective? That the marketing objective that social media is trying to do is they're trying to move the customer down to brand loyalty right here. If you remember from the customer life cycle in marketing, once you get somebody that is loyal to your brand, they are happy and they're not going to move off of it. And then they almost could become a brand ambassador because they're loyal to your brand, they like your brand, and they're willing to go out and promote your brand. So depending on your organization, you may want to sit back and think, where does our organization fall with regard to our customers in general, or where would we like to start, or where would we like to start our social media campaign along this customer life cycle? Possibly it's just right here, and your marketing objective is to increase awareness, to get people to just know you are even out there, to know you exist. Sometimes this happens for new businesses, or maybe it's an event that you're putting on that may be that may be new. Next, you have influence and desire. Once they're aware, they actually need to have a desire to actually participate in what you're having offer. That can be through the influence and desire. Once they desire to do it, and they may need a little push over to do something, you need to get them to get to the point to where they facilitate and purchase. This influence desire, have encouraged trial. That's, hey, come and try us out. This could happen sometimes through promotion, sometimes through them seeing other people participating in what they're doing that they consider similar to them. But you want to somehow get them to purchase something. Social media is one way also can facilitate people to purchase things. Maybe right within inside of the social media itself is a link to take you to the website to purchase something, or maybe you can click on a button that says purchase and it takes you to a purchasing page where you're able to purchase something. Once someone has purchased something, you try to get them to cement brand loyalty, to really become engaged in what they're offering, to get them to become involved to the point of becoming an ambassador or a promoter. If you want to use Net Promoter Score language for your brand. This can also happen through social media, through being out there and just confirming your use of it. I think oftentimes I will purchase something and I'll be encouraged, trial, maybe there'll be a promotion that will be coming up. I'll purchase something and I find myself once in a while having a little bit of buyer's remorse. I'll get on different websites, I'll look and I'll see, what do other people think about what they purchased? Oftentimes you think this should happen before I purchase it, but do some before and also some after. And if I find that other people like it, Other people are talking highly of it. If I do a search on Instagram, hashtag a certain thing that I purchased, and I see people using it and talking about it in a positive way, that helps me to cement my brand loyalty because I'm able to see what other people also think of it through social media. And then we have recover from service failures. Hopefully this doesn't happen too often, but social media could be a way that if something is not working out the way you want it to, you could say, we're sorry, let me figure out a way that I could make it better from an organization's perspective. I was reading something about Marriott Hotels. Somebody wasn't happy with their experience at Marriott Hotels, and they posted a comment on it through Marriott Hotels, through the review that they wrote about the Marriott Hotels. Marriott Hotels was following that social media, and they got on and they said, we're sorry that you didn't like it. Please allow us to make it better. And they put a link in the bottom of a place they could click and go to and have follow-up to try to make it better, maybe, I don't know, do different types of things. So the marketing objectives of social media are to really help the customer to progress through the customer life cycle. Social media has grown with inside of marketing so far that they're starting to talk about a fifth P in marketing. If you remember the first four P's, you have price, product, promotion, and then place or distribution, depending on how you learn it. And they're talking about that social media is introducing a fifth P. This is a quote from Peter Drucker at the end, but we'll read a little bit about it. Peter Drucker is a big marketing guru. He says, with social media marketing, the ability for consumers to interact and engage with brands is greatly enhanced. Think about all the different ways you can engage with a brand now that they're social media. Oftentimes you are limited to engaging with the brand before social media just with the retailer or the person who is selling, but now you're able to talk directly with the brand, itself. Social media channels give consumers unparalleled access. Consumers discuss, contribute, collaborate, and share with brands and with each other. This is very important to realize from a marketing perspective. Consumers are talking with the brand, and you may be getting that information, but also they're talking with each other inside of different communities. And they can be promoting your brand, or they could be neutral on it, or they could actually even be a distractor and telling people not to necessarily to participate in it. The culture of marketing has shifted to an informal one focused on the belief that customers are in control. That's not, or to the belief that customers are in control, excuse me. That's a big shift that has taken place. Coming through the 70s and even into the 80s and early 90s, companies thought that they were in control. They would produce something, they would provide something, and customers would participate in it or not, but they were ultimately in control. But now, with social media, customers are in control. They're able to interact a lot more with the brand, tell them exactly what they think, then the brand should react, and they're in control with what they're telling their peers about it. Marketing guru Peter Drucker once famously said, the purpose of business is to create customers. So it's interesting. He said that before social media took place. Now let's see what it's continued on with. With the reach and community influence of social media, we can expand this definition. The purpose of business is to create customers who create other customers. That participation is the participation in that process is the new fifth P of marketing. Participation. So now we have social media out there. People go, they participate in an activity, in an experience. What we would like them to do is then become promoters, get on their social media sites, get on our website, write reviews, and talk about how great it was, and actually encourage the participation of others, of other customers, based on their review. So you can see really the power of social media with inside of marketing. There's two overarching objectives of social media marketing. The first, to extend and leverage the brand's media coverage. Oftentimes before social media, brands were limited to radio, to radio, television, print media, maybe a few other forms to be able to get their ideas, to be able to extend their knowledge or their exposure out there. but with social media, it's a lot easier for them to be able to extend because social media can be relatively inexpensive. And then the next is to influence the consumer through the decision-making process. This is like we talked about previously on this slide right here, is that really social media is trying to influence the customer to move them along the decision-making process to become loyal customers. What can social media do for marketing? This is very interesting, and I think some of these are very applicable to some of the companies that you may be working with. Deliver tool to build buzz and word of mouth of communication. This is what I think a lot of events do. They start their social media out and they figure out how can we ramp up to really build buzz out there. And they start their social media way in advance. Deliver coupons or other promotional material. When was the last time that you received or saw a coupon or promotion through social media? Deliver platforms to execute contests and sweepstakes. I know I've participated in sweepstakes that I've seen, or different contests. I remember one silly contest that I participated in. It was like how many times you could hit one key on the keyboard in the course of a certain amount of time, and whoever hit the most times, I think, won a pair of skis. It was put on by K2. That was all delivered through social media. Collect data to build databases and generate sales leads. You have research, you have computers collecting data on you and researching into what you're doing into big data analytics all the time when you are on social media. They're really helping these companies to generate databases. Manage your customer service relationships. We talked about how through social media, it's a way for companies to engage with their customers, as well as customers to engage with their companies. And then the last one is to, an expressive way to increase reach and frequency of the message. So this is one way that you can actually be creative and you can express ways to increase reach. Reach would be the breadth, how far your advertisement goes out, how far people know about your company. The frequency is how often do they interact with your company, either be it coming and participating in the experience, or being it through a media type of engagement. Many of you have been exposed before to creating marketing plans. What I want to do is to go through creating a social media marketing plan. This is going to be one of the assignments that you will have underneath the tactical and implementation assignment that you have. Creating a social media marketing plan has 7 different steps to it. I'm expecting you to offer deep enough detail in these steps that I can understand that you have thought about it, but you don't necessarily need to go and provide all the depth and all the deep research that you would inside of a regular marketing plan in every single stage. There will be a few stages I will ask you to do that, but we're going to talk through this right now. The first step that we have is to do the situation analysis. The situation analysis details the current problem or situation the organization faces. Every organization faces a situation. Most organizations have challenges that lie in front of them. Things that you would include in this, you would do an internal audit, see what's going on with your organization. You could do an internal audit specifically with regard to social media. How are they using social media? Where do they need to go forward with their social media? You could also see what challenges is the organization facing and how could they move forward with the with using social media to help them overcome these challenges. The next is the environmental audit. The environmental audit is in where they step out and they start looking at at what's going on around them. A lot of the environmental audit can be their competition. Is there competition moving forward? Is there competition growing? What is going on inside of their political environment? What's going on inside of the social environment that the organization may be doing business in? And also what's going on inside of the technological environment? Is it growing? Is it building, and are they able to keep up just with technology? This helps them to really understand the situation that they face. And the last one, they could do a SWOT analysis. You're familiar with the SWOT analysis: strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. I'm hoping that you will go and you'll look at each one of these different types of analysis with hopes of just getting a better idea of how you could use social media with your organization to be more effectively, to help them to achieve their goals that they're trying to achieve. If you're looking at social media in particular, here are some different things that you can look at with regards to your organization's social media. You can see that there's different questions that you can ask inside the audit template. Coming down here to Snapchat, it says, what type of content do we post? Do we drive consumers to our websites based on our content? What is our push-pull mix? Do we interact with users? These are just different type of questions that you can ask yourself when you're looking inside of the internal audit and thinking about how do we use social media. Also, in the external audit, you could look at this and see what is our competitors doing with some of their use of social media. Again, I'm hoping that you'll go through and give this a look and see what information can you glean that will help to inform your social media campaign that you are going to put on as you progress through the semester. Step 2, objectives and budget. An objective is a specific statement about a planned social media activity in terms of what the activity intends to accomplish. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually think about, with regard to social media specifically, what do we want to accomplish for our organization? Some different objectives that are out there that you could accomplish. You can see right here is top objectives that marketers pursue with regard to social media is to increase exposure. Just get your name out there. Social media is a great tool to be able to do that. Increase traffic. More than just getting your name out there. Get people to actually look at what you're doing, to take them to a landing page, or what is the call of action that you may have on your social media site. Maybe you want to go to your website or things like that. Down here, reduce expenses. Social media is one way to reduce expenses if you have been using more traditional forms of marketing. We talked about budgets. I'm not expecting you to spend any of your own money on this. Some organizations may have budgets that they're willing to let you use. Some may not. But if you are working for an organization, you're going to want to ask them, how much budget do we have? How are we able to go and purchase ads? Are we able to have pay-per-click? Are we able to offer different different promotions or different incentives that we have out there on social media? Can you hire people to do it, or is this just somebody in the marketing department is kind of going to do in their free time? Things that I would like you to include in step 2 of objectives and budgets are specific and smart statements about what the organization's plans to accomplish with its social media. Step back while you're talking to an organization. Say, what do you want to accomplish with your social media? Have discussions with the managers. If they're like, oh yeah, I just go ahead and take over the social media. Say, no, what do you want to accomplish with it? It will give you a goal and a direction on what you're trying to do. And when I say SMART, here I'm referring to SMART goals. I want you to write the objectives out like that, to be specific, measurable. Now I'm spacing on SMART. Hold on. All right. Once in a while, that just happens. You just space on things that you know. So SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So write them in that format. You know how to do it. You've been doing this for a long time. Step number 3 is your target audience. I would like you to dive deeper into this area and try to understand who your target audience is. A great way you can do this is underneath the marketing topic page in the library. There's a video that shows you how to use a lot of different databases to understand who your target market is, and to know and to know kind of what some of their habits are. Also, the organizations that you are working for, talk to them about who is their target audience. What have they learned about their audience over the time that they've been doing business with them? Some of the things I would like you to include is a buyer persona analysis. The buyer persona analysis is this right here, and also you can see the textbook went through it. Over here, who is the typical person that participates in it? You have Chris right here. He looks like a male, 45 years old. He could be the type of person that participates in the business that you're offering. Who is he? List some of the things that that he is down here, and then come through and highlight one thing that really kind of you think sums up who the person is that participates or that is engaged in your social media and with the company that you are trying to offer. For example, if this was somebody and you're doing a social media plan for Outdoors Unlimited, they have a couple different personas. They have the community. That is one of their personas, people that come in and rent their gear. Another persona that they have is they have the BYU student body. And who are they? What type of people are they that come and participate? What kind of students are they in the BYU student body? List that information out here. Another thing you can ask is how does your person find vendors? Does he mostly go by word of mouth? Does he research them out himself? What are different ways he finds the vendors? How does he use social media to find the vendors, or not use social media to find the vendors that he uses? Pain points. What are some of the things that really just rub the person wrong? I talked about Outdoors Unlimited. Something that I struggle with Outdoors Unlimited is sometimes they have long lines, and I think, why can't they have more people checking people out quicker? So that could be a pain point. That just kind of what rubs something wrong. Also, there's nothing wrong with just going and asking people. If you're at Outdoors Unlimited, go and spend an hour down there. Talk to the customers, talk to the customers. What went well for you? What are some things when you've been in here in the past that have been difficult that you didn't like about doing business with Outdoors Unlimited? If we were on social media, what are some things you would like to see us producing on social media? Next thing, what he wants to know. What does the customer want to know? What does Chris right here want to know about your company? Then that helps you to be able to put things out there. What does he not want to know? Then that allows you to be targeted in what you're focusing instead of putting out so many things that he may or may not be interested in knowing. Who does he buy from? It's kind of interesting. Up here we have how he finds his vendors, then who he buys from. What criteria does he choose to decide who he is going to purchase something from versus just finding who it is? Once he has a few vendors to choose from, why does he choose to purchase from one vendor over other vendors? And then the last one is, how do we retain him? Once they have had an interaction with him, what is something that we can do to retain him? This is something that will help you to understand your customer better. You can also do this through a social media perspective. Being, who is your customer? How does he find vendors? How does he find people that he follows? How does he choose to stay with the followers? Pain point. What doesn't he like about the social media that is out there? What does he want to know on his social media? Why, when he opens up in the morning, why does he go to one social media page or producer first to look at what they have to offer? What doesn't he want to know on his social media? Then who does he buy from? Who does he continue to follow? I think here, when it regards social media, how do we retain him and who does he follow kind of combine together? In that, who does he continue and consistently follow and put to come up first on his feeds? So I want you to dive in and say, who's the buyer persona? This is a good template that I think you can use to help you to get insight into that. As you're also looking at your target audience, who is the core target? So you maybe have multiple buyer personas, but who's the core target that you want to put together your social media campaign for? I encourage you to be narrow and specific in this. Going back to the example of Outdoors Unlimited, I wouldn't necessarily, for the purpose of this class, launch a social media campaign that has to do with students and also at the same time that has to do with families. I would just focus on one or the other. How to describe that core, you can describe that and you can write a nice paragraph about that, hopefully pulling off of the information that you've learned from the persona analysis. How do they use social media? How do they interact with brands online? How and when Target interacts, so this would be the target audience, interacts in online communities. And one suggestion that I thought was interesting for this that came from the book is possibly plot out the target audience social media day. When are they involved in social media? This will give you key insights to know when to publish on what vehicles, because you will know they are on that. You know they're on that vehicle. Maybe Snap. Students get on Snap and look first thing in the morning to their Snap to see what they may have missed. But during the day, they're busy at work. They're busy with classes. They're busy studying, so they don't get back on until the evening or till night. Then, if you're producing social media, you would want to put it at the times when they are on looking at it, so it pulls up as high as possible inside of their feeds. Step 4, social media zones and vehicles. The zones of social media make up the channel and vehicle mix of social media. Decide what zone do you want to focus on, and then choose 1 or 2 vehicles within inside of those zones. You do not want to go huge. You say we're going to use all of these vehicles within inside of the zone. It will just become unmanageable, especially for this project. If you have a social media team that you're working on for an organization, then maybe someone could be the Facebook person, somebody could be the Instagram person, somebody could be the Snap person, somebody could be the Twitter person. You could look at that. Also, there's different tools out there that when you post on Instagram, it will automatically post on Facebook as well. The choice of zone and vehicle is based on the nature of the marketing objective and the persona characteristic. So think about, what is your marketing objective? If your marketing objective is to increase exposure, then you probably are not going to want to put efforts down here into the social commerce. You're probably going to be more operating up here in the social community and the social publishing. So you can see really how the vehicle you use and within inside the specific zones can help you to be successful in achieving your marketing objectives when you combine that with the persona characteristics. The purpose of this step is to think through those. And what I'm looking for you to do is to offer a sound rationale why you are choosing to operate within inside of a certain zone using certain vehicles. This is what you'll want to include in this section. What vehicles are used in each zone to market? That is with regard to your objective. How effective are these zones and vehicles at reaching the target? So you may have a primary vehicle you use and then a secondary vehicle you use, or maybe you're using a vehicle that isn't as successful. And you may know it's not going to be successful, which means you might have to work harder to achieve that objective that you're trying to get to. You've seen this slide before. It just talks about the different zones and kind of the purposes of what you do within the zones. You can go back to the slide that we had earlier also that talked about the different vehicles that are used within inside of the different zones. Step 5. Okay. Step 5, create an experience strategy. This is where you actually get to use some creativity and dive in and really think about what can we do with inside of our social media to create an experience. Some of this dives into the style guide. If you were to produce a style guide, oftentimes a style guide would be produced here, but since you're already doing that, we're not going to have it be part of this particular assignment. So to create an experience strategy, a message strategy refers to the creative approach used throughout the campaign. So basically you're saying, now what are we going to do? What's the strategy we're going to do? Are we going to be humorous in what we do? Are we going to be serious about what we do? This should follow the brand's position statement. So you're trying to say, how do we create an experience for what we do? It should look at the brand's position statement. A position statement is a single statement that encapsulates the position that brand wishes to hold in the mind of the target audience. So if you're to think about something about a brand out there, if you're saying, what is one sentence that encapsulates how people feel about them? What is that? And that would be the position statement that they have. For BYU, it's interesting because President Worthen came up with a position statement for BYU. And this is, maybe I pull this into the screen and you can see it here. He says, our students are the leaders and problem solvers of the next generation. I hope we inspire our students to learn and hope that learning leads to inspiration. So it's two sentences, but we'll call it a statement that kind of talks about what BYU's position is that President Worthen would like to see BYU's position to be. And then what you do is, that's the position. How do you create social media and an experience that shows that type of, that fulfills that position that you want to have inside of people's mind? So for BYU, they could have a lot of students doing really cool stuff, solving world problems that are out there. People are familiar with, I'm going to call it the water wheel. I'm not sure what it's called, where they took to Africa to be able to pump water. That is leaders. That is problem solving. That is out there. That is going on. So the social media shows it. Where it says, I hope we inspire our students to learn and hope that learning leads to inspiration. I view that as I view that as he's talking about faculty, and that we have inspired professors that are teaching, and it is leading these students to inspiration, which would suggest religious inspiration, and being open to inspiration about problems in the world. Now, the social media. How could you create a social media account that has that type of experience? Maybe show professors working closely with students, doing certain things that are helping to solve problems. Show this relationship between students and professors that might be helping to inspire them to do certain things. Just kind of interesting here. So you're wanting to create an experience strategy, but as you create an experience strategy, you want to think about, what can I do to be creative in helping us to achieve a good experience for the user of our social media that will help them to understand the position that our organization wants to hold inside of the mind of their customer. If you need help with this, come and talk to me. For me, the very best way to do it is just to talk through it and to talk it out. And eventually I find out that I'll figure it out. This section would include a couple of different things. Experiences you want users to have with your social media. So talk about that. What do you want them to have? Back to the Outdoors Unlimited thing. If you want them to experience renting stuff, you probably want them to be able to come and see, hey, here's an easy way, convenient way, inexpensive way to get the gear you need to go outdoors. Abbreviated style guide would often be included. You're not going to do a style guide for this because we're going to do a nice style guide for a different assignment. A description of the social media's ability to be worthy of sharing. You know you have created a good experience for your social media users when they want to share it. I think Jerry of the Day does a good job of this. They're creating this experience of just kind of lightheartedness, laughing, people being funny, or just not knowing things. All the time I look at it, I just want to share it with somebody. Say, hey, look at this, look how funny this is worthy of sharing. What are you going to do to create enough of an experience through social media that they want to share it with other people? when you're doing that, and then you're using the fifth P of marketing, you're taking the people who are engaging in your social media and they are creating other customers through sharing it. There. To get some of these, you can look at chapter 4. And there's a series of questions that will help lead you through it. It's on page 124, 125 of the readings that you have. Develop a list of key insights about the target audience must-knows for the creative team that will aid in creating a social media experience. This is where you go back to the buyer's persona and you look and say, now, what are the key things that I need to know that are really going to allow me to create a meaningful experience? Then the last one is define how the organization brand will behave, interact with the customer through social media. Again, this oftentimes comes from the style guide. So this is your chance just to kind of restate it in a smaller, succinct way here. A couple different tools, or a couple different ways that a brand can build an experience is they can trigger the senses. They can they can help people to remember when they're in a certain situations. I know sometimes I will see something on my social media. I follow quite a few skiing kind of social media places, and I'll remember maybe the excitement that I had when I was in a similar situation skiing, or maybe I'll see some food out there and I'll have the senses of, oh wow, I bet you that would taste good, that would be great, through the social media. Next thing is you want to evoke feeling. I believe that a better word for this is probably want to evoke emotion in what you're seeing there. We all have seen social media where emotion is evoked, either sadness or emotion of happiness or emotion of joy. I think the church does a good job evoking emotions with their campaign that they did at during Christmas, Light the World. I think they do a good job of evoking emotion through the social media that they use. Next thing is you want to activate behavior. Social media is great, but ultimately, most of the time your organization wants to activate some type of behavior for them to do, a call of action that they would do, and then also stimulate perception. You want them to be able to stimulate perception. You want them to think about how the brand fits into their life. How does that organization fit into their life and possibly other parts of their life? And they can start using what you are promoting in your social media inside of their life, in other aspects of their life. When you start doing that, you are creating an experience for the social media user, and you are moving them along the customer life cycle. As well, you're helping them become an active participant in what you may be promoting. Step 6: establish an activation plan. For social media, campaigns are not necessarily events or fixed starts and stop dates. Conversations and communities continue over time, and a brand social media marketing presence should do this as well. So figure out, how am I going to start my social media, and how am I going to have it continue over time? For some events could have a start and stop time, but ideally you would even want people having discussion about the event after it happened. That helps with their post with their post experience. So think about, when am I going to start? How am I going to start? Put together an activation plan for you to be able to do this. If your company's already moving forward with social media and there's an avenue that you might be going in a slightly different direction, what is that different direction, and how could you start moving inside of that direction? If you are doing it for an event and you're trying to build excitement, how do you build that excitement instead of starting out like with your most coolest thing, and then the excitement just drops and the event comes and people are like, I have this event, and saying, wow, I got this cool event. It's going to be so exciting to go to. In this section, you'll want to include, if appropriate, a start-stop date for the social media campaign. It may not be appropriate. It may be something that is continual. What recommendations do you have to continue the social media campaign so the company can always be on? This is something that if they're moving forward, what they can do to always just stay with it. It is important for the companies to realize that once they get people buying into their social media, looking at their social media, participating in their company through the use of social media to continue it, to keep going. Some of this will also fall underneath your tactical plan that you come up with on how to do, and we'll walk through those steps in just a second. The last step of the social media marketing plan that I want you to look at is execution and measurement. There's no value in doing the social media for the sake of social media. Companies are out there, yeah, we have a social media page. Well, what does it do for you? What are your objectives that you're trying to achieve with it? Well, I don't know, we have a social media page. That's almost a waste of money because it's not really getting them out there if they're not working towards an objective. So the value comes in helping the brand accomplish its objectives. Tom Peters stated, what gets measured gets done. Tom Peters is also Peter Drucker that we heard from earlier, big marketing guru, but what gets measured gets done. So this is a way to say, here's our objective, here's what we're trying to accomplish with our social media, here's how we're going to get it done and accomplish it. The key marketing objectives the organization is trying to achieve and ways it measures if social media is contributing. As of now, I understand that you may not have a lot of different ways to measure if it is achieving what you want it to achieve. But think of ways that you could put out there, ways that it could measure, and to see if it is being successful. So again, what I'm asking you to do is to put together a social media marketing plan. These are the 7 steps to put together the social media marketing plan. Once the social media marketing plan is put together, and then you can look at the tactical planning for the social media marketing plan. This actually is what helps to implement the media. It's what brings it to life. So a tactical plan brings the social media marketing to life. There are several steps required, including choosing the right channels, which you would have gotten some of that from the social media marketing plan. Content to deliver and desired experience, which you have gotten some of that from the marketing plan. Now you're just figuring out, how do I actually implement it? Rules of engagement and a schedule. The tactical plan will guide the organization's social media activity, must do so in a way that fits the marketing objectives. This is key. Again, you're not producing social media for the sake of producing social media. You are producing social media because it is helping to achieve the marketing objectives that the organization has. Questions the tactical plan answers are basically the 5, or the who, the why, the who, the where, the what, and the how. So we're going to go through each one of those and give you tools to be able to answer those as you are putting together the tactical plan for your social media. The why. Okay. The first is the why. The why is basically, when we come down here, they're the strategic objectives. When you have a why to your social media tactical plan, it helps it to be value driven. Social media tactics are the action taken to execute the social media strategy. The objectives are the why. So here, let's come down here. Let's take a look and let's kind of walk through the thought process that we use to get to where we want to go. The first is create brand awareness. That could be the strategic objective that we would have gotten from the social media marketing plan previously. The strategy to do that is to expose target audience to the brand. Okay, makes sense. If we want to create brand awareness, we need to expose them to the brand, so that's the strategy. The tactical objective, so these are the objectives that will help us to do this, is build brand presence in social communities, post interesting and interactive messages, engage in conversation with fans and influencers, promote links to high value content. So these are the objectives that we want to accomplish that will help us to achieve the strategy. Now this, in my opinion, is where the rubber really hits the road. Is right here we look at the tactics. This is what we do to achieve the strategic objectives of what we're trying to accomplish. To develop brand profile in select social network sites. So example, Facebook or LinkedIn. So you're going to go and you're actually going to put them up and you're going to develop the brand networks that were there. Post daily in each network. Do you see how these tactics becomes things that we can do? They're things on a checklist. Yes, I'm doing that. If I'm doing these tactics well, I should be reaching the tactical objectives. The tactical objectives should help me reach the strategy that I have put out to reach my strategic objectives. Does that make sense? Respond to commitments and questions daily. User influence list to target conversations around campaign. So what we're interested in when we're doing the why is we're trying to get to the tactics. What are we going to specifically do to help us to achieve the strategic objective? And the strategic objective is the why we are running a social media campaign. The next is the who. And the who, we need to understand and honor the target audience. So we need to go back and get to know them well. You have already done this somewhat inside of your strategic social media plan. The level that you did it there will influence how much you need to dive into this. Here, basically what it is you need to figure out how to engage them, the target audience. So remember, social media is about participating and sharing. For this reason, it should be based on providing social media experience. To do this, you must understand your target audience to inspire them to do, see, and feel. Here, it is your responsibility to focus on your target audience and to help them to have an experience. In order to do that, you have to understand the persona. So what I'm asking you to do now is to complete this persona planner using data. Previously to now, and if you remember, the persona planner is the one with the guy on the side, and then it had the questions that you answered on the other side. I want you to go back and, where applicable, put in data to actually support what you have found out. If you already have done that, then just bring it forward and restate it here, and it will be fairly easy to do. The next is the where. The where is the channel plan. The next step is the channel. You want to look at and think about the channel or the vehicle plan for how you're going to share. Where do you want to share? Is it the right vehicle to do what you want? Because the channel really influences what can be shared. It wouldn't make sense to put together a how-to video and post it on Snap or even Facebook. Those type of things belong more on YouTube. So it influences what and how it can be shared, how people engage with each other, and choices about the timing and frequency of the participation. So it's important for you to understand what vehicle you're going to be using. Some questions I think that are helpful for you to be able to ask is who uses the channel? What are they using it for, and how much time do they spend there? If you remember, go back to the beginning of this presentation, we talked about Pinterest and how Pinterest has in the low 30s% of male users. If you're going to be putting something on Pinterest and your primary persona, target audience of the persona is are men, just by using that channel, you're not having exposure to as many men as you would have if you were using a different channel. So those are things that you kind of want to think about. Then why are they there? What are they going to that channel for? What is the purpose of that channel? To me, it wouldn't make sense if you if you're doing something newsy and putting a lot of news out about current events or something like that, to be using Instagram. It doesn't seem like Instagram is a very good platform to be able to do that with. But if you're putting information out about your company, something exciting is coming up, an event, Instagram I think would be a lot better platform to use. Now, what are the conversations like here, and what kind of contexts work best? Are they having context? Is it something someone just looks at and then it's done with? Or are they engaging and able to engage with other people that your organization may be interested in through the particular channel that you're using? It would make sense that maybe you take them to one that you own to be able to engage in a deeper conversation about something. If it's a review, then you may want to follow it, and they're doing it through Yelp or something. Follow it follow what's going on there, but also it's a way that you can engage. What specific goals can be pursued here given the channel's functionality? We talked a little bit about that already. Can we establish a unique presence and make a value contribution to the community? Does our brand, image, voice, and tone fit with the channel? It's important to always be thinking about going back to what are your marketing objectives and how are those marketing objectives contributing to the organization? And is it contributing nicely? Is it fitting in these particular channels? And then are your competitors present here? If so, how are they performing? This goes back to questions that you asked yourself in the external audit. What are our competitors doing? I think a great way to sometimes look at content or get ideas about content is look at what competition is doing. And then obviously you don't want to copycat them, but it can be a nice place to help stimulate ideas to what to do. I apologize. These next two figures are quite small, but if you go through and here are the different, across the top are the different channels, and down here are the things that the channels are good at and accelerate at. If we come over to here, is it best for business to business or business to customer? Over here, we can look very quickly. Facebook, business to customer. Twitter, business to business, business to customer. Right here for business to business, LinkedIn is probably one of the stronger social media platforms for us to be able to use with business to business. Snap, business to customer. I don't see a lot of businesses trying to communicate with me through Snap, but maybe it's just my particular feed that I have. And then it continues over here with sample tactics. Here are some sample tactics that can help you to go and best content. I think this is really important as you're thinking about the different social media zones that you want to use and the vehicles within inside of those zones or the channels within inside of those zones. What's the best content? What kind of content do you want to use to communicate? Thought this is pretty interesting. Business to business and business to customer. LinkedIn, business. 40% of the communication takes place there. Facebook is still fairly prominent. Facebook is a lot more prominent outside the United States than it is inside the United States. Over here, business to customers. Facebook is still fairly prominent, 66, and Twitter comes in, and they're starting to use Twitter with businesses going out and talking to their customers. On my Twitter feed, I do have customers who speak with me, so hopefully that that gives a little bit of insight as you're trying to choose what vehicle do I use. So where am I going to be promoting my stuff? Next part of the tactical plan is the designing of the experience. The key here with the designing the experience is you want to hit a sweet spot in which the audience passions and needs intersect with the brand's identity. So you really have to understand your audience well, you have to understand what their needs well, and then figure out how do those things align with what the brand has to offer to help to help the target audience or the viewer of the social media to move down that customer life cycle that we keep talking about. Let's talk about type of tactic. So we can talk about each one of these. First of all, we need to think about the type of tactic that we're going to be using and seeing if it lines up with the zone of social media that we're choosing to use and the channel that we are using. So this goes back a little bit to the where. For example, if you want to do something about education, it probably makes best sense if you can do education, maybe put together a video, not to be putting that out on Snap or on Instagram, but instead bounce over to YouTube and put it on there and work inside the zone of publishing instead of the zone of community. The next is content type. Think about what type of content are you going to be doing that. I don't like this vocabulary very much where it says content type. You may want to think about it as in what type of format would you be using to do it in. If you come over here and look right here, sample content types. These are all different content types or formats that you could put information out there in live video, pre-recorded video. I guess that's what this is a pre-recorded video. I'm publishing it. I am doing it with the purpose of being educational to help you to be able to consume a large amount of information quickly that you could go back to and get more and could review if you need help on specific particular things, or you can always come talk to me. So that would be that would be content type. You want to be tactical about the type or the format that you use. Then coming back to content strategy. Content strategy then talks about what are the themes or topics or ideas that you are going to put out there to try to hit the sweet spot. Some examples of these could be maybe what pain points are your customers having when they are interacting with your brand. So it could be the audience passions. They want to interact, they want to do what they're doing with your brand, but they aren't able to do it easily, or they're having pinpoints. And then your brand identity could be, we're able to provide this type of experience. The theme could be help you to interact with our brand easier. Another type of content strategy or theme that you could have is, how is your brand what competitive advantage does your brand have over the competition? And this helps people to understand. A content type that you could use for that is maybe use a video and you show your brand and compare it to another brand doing the same thing, and you could then talk about how you have a competitive advantage. And then the type of tactic that you would use is that would be in zone of publishing and education. So does that make sense? What is the experience that you want to design? Then give thought about how you want to go about and design that type of experience. These are some characteristics of effective tactics that that you can use, that are out there. And then also, I really like this infographic right here. I use the word infographic a lot in your I've asked you produce infographics. This gives a lot of information in a fairly easy way. If we look over here, we have the access, rational to emotional, then awareness to purchase. Then we have all of these different types of content that we could put in. This would fall underneath content type that you could put in to help you to help your consumer understand what the value is that your company brings. Also to help them maybe get the sweet spot of what they need and how it matches with your organization. Hopefully this is helpful and can give you some ideas as you are trying to figure out what you want to produce for your social media. These are a list of questions that you could ask yourself when you're trying to come up with content strategy to help you come up with a theme or an idea to talk about. What content types will be desirable to the target audience? Let's start up here. Excuse me. What can you offer that matters to the target audience? What do they want? What can your company do that would really be beneficial to them? What can you create that is truly different from that offered by your competition? Then you might need to think creative about it, but this is where you can get into content strategy that would help, and then you have to figure out what type or format would help you to do that the best, and then what type of tactic or what zone and vehicle will help you to be able to be the most successful in doing it. And then also, when you're doing this, a lot of it is going to evolve into the style guides. When you have your content, you want to think about the style that you're going to present it in, so it is tied into your brand. We've talked about style guides quite a bit, but ensures that the standards are followed, such as tone, voice, consistent communications across all platforms of social media. So just as a recap, what I'm asking you to do is to go and as a group put together a social media marketing plan, so you have direction on what you're doing. So you're just not putting together posts or putting together different social media and putting it out there. But I want you to be deliberate in what you're doing, and then go through and think about, once that's put together, then think about the tactics that you're going to use to actually implement the strategy that you have tried to put together. And as you're implementing this, as you're doing it, always think back to what are the objectives that the organization is trying to reach, and how can we use social media to do that. Please come and see me when you have questions. I know this is a lot of information, and I am here. I want to help you. I want to coach you through it. I want to be a consultant to help you to be able to be successful as you're going about these social media campaigns. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great rest of your day. This information is copyrighted by Peter Ward, 2018. Please do not reproduce it or rebroadcast any part of it in any way without written permission. Thank you. Bye.